Hello and welcome to the midweek trading session right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Here's what's coming up in the next 55 minutes. Nigeria's headline inflation for April rises 33.69%, with food inflation at 40.53%. And we count the cost of Lagos illegal property demolitions and gauge the impact on real estate investment sentiment for Lagos. Now we see Zambian interest rate hikes there for the 6th consecutive time, raising the rates, lending rates to a higher level. And it's great to have you join us. I'm Ladi Williams. Let's kick off this midweek trading session right here. What's happening in the market? Starting with oil prices. Now, they rose up today with expectations for higher demand as the U.S. dollar weakened, and a report showed U.S. inventories fell. And we see $82.88 a barrel, 0.6% rise there for Brent. And we see WTI crude $78.54 a barrel, also a big 0.7% rise. So definitely looking out for oil demand, going forward, and we're seeing some prospects there that demand will still be quite good, and we're seeing prices rise on that prospect. Let's look at the metals market. Gold prices traded flat as investors look forward to a critical U.S. inflation print that could offer clues on the Federal Reserve's interest rate cut trajectory there. So we see gold, $2,376, 0.70%. So to see the metals market looking quite strong, just like yesterday. Silver, a big 1.56% jump there. The shiner right there. Palladium, 1.69%, but still below that $1,000 mark. That's for palladium. And yeah, bringing it for inflation now. It's all about the inflation reports at this time and what the central banks are going to do next. So for April, headline inflation rate, that rose to 33.69%, up from 33.20% in March 2024. That's a 0.49 percentage point increase. Additionally, food inflation rate for April, 40.53%. Year on year, significantly higher by 15.92% compared to April 2023 rate, which is about 24.61%. So now we have the inflation number for April, and definitely looking forward to what the central bank do next with interest rates. And the federal government is committed to giving the country a national shipping line as part of its quest to harness the opportunities of the blue economy. The Director General of NIMASA, Dayo Moberula, made this known at a stakeholders meeting in Lagos. While speaking on the concerns expressed by participants, he says issues hampering the growth of the country's maritime sector, as well as those capable of stifling the blue economy, such as investment opportunities, insurance, cabotage policy, wrecks on the waterways, are currently being addressed. That in due course, the results will begin to manifest. Take a listen.
One of the stakeholders' engagement, the Honorable Minister had in November last year, he did mention that he would want to have a national flag in Nigeria, and he would want it to be done on PPP. And we are working assiduously to achieve this. You would understand that most of these things, in order to get it right, we have to do a very good feasibility studies and very good collaboration with all the various stakeholders, including your good selves, the financiers, and of course, and I like the point that was also raised about the demand, which is, where are the demands? There is wet demands, there are dry demands. The wet demands is coming from NNPC. We are also going to engage NNPC for the cargoes, so that NNPC will stop trading on CIF, but on FOB, and would allow Nigerian flag vessels to be carrying these trades for us.
Demolition notices are still flying around Lagos State. Just recently, the Mende area of Maryland felt the sting. Now, the Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development says many more people who today pride themselves as landlords in Lagos, particularly those who have built their homes in the Bejuleki and Ekpe areas of the state, risk becoming tenants, as the state government has said that about 80% of the buildings in that corridor are unapproved. Well, joining us now is Dr. Oyeleke Ajiboye, CEO, Efficacy Construction, joining us right here in the studio. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you, Mr. Led.
Yeah, so quite quite a threat there for that corridor this time. And I remember the story of the lady that her family, built their house in, say, February.
Yes,
And,
they purchased the house.
They purchased the house, actually, in February, and they got that demolition notice. But let's listen to what she had to say.
We bought that property in February. In February. And we've only been here for 2 months. For 2 months. For 2 months. All the hard work, all the sleepless nights, everything. If you're in Lagos, you know how much properties in Etiosa cost. You know how much properties in Etiosa cost. Each time my son see me crying, he will always ask me why I'm crying. Mommy, you've been crying. How do I explain to our son? How? What do I tell my children? I'm trying so hard to be a strong woman, but this is very painful. I don't even wish anybody a pain like this. I don't wish anybody to work so hard, so tireless, and face something like this. I don't.
Yeah, we've seen, some other people also, have this reaction, and it's quite painful. One day you're celebrating, becoming a landlord, then the next thing you find out that that property is no longer yours; it's gone. So break it down for me, because a lawyer I spoke to said there's no way you will construct a house in Lagos and you would not be approached, to get some kind of approval, at some point. So break it down for me. You're a developer. What's the process here, in getting a building permit?
Yes, this demolition happening is a very emotional topic at the moment and a very sad one. And I think to a large extent, people are falling victim because of what is happening in our society. There's a lot of compromise that people are doing now. I feel sad for the lady in that video we just watched. So somebody could have sold a land that that is a right of way and built on it. And the way Lagos State works, so when you talk about the 3 kind of demolition that is happening at the moment, we have the coastal road, which is a topic at the moment. We have the environment. And then the other kind of demolition is when you build inside a government scheme, when there's a title in contention. So if the land belongs to me and you build on it, then they'll put remove. or if there's a title in contention. So for people that go and buy, they go and build inside a government scheme, and somebody sold if a land without a title to you, and there's a superior title, then demolition will happen. But ordinarily, physical planning, like what they said about 80% of Ibejuleki, there's an amnesty going on down for people that own houses that don't have a building approval. They are giving them 3 months. The intention is to make people to come and regularize and document their documents. But if your land has a good title and then you are building, there's no way. Lagos has a lot of foot soldiers. They will get to you. They would give you a stop work notice before they seal it. If you break the seal, they will put a seal break before they bring a demolition notice. And when they bring a demolition notice,
construction is
ongoing. That's when construction is ongoing. Okay. However, because I said we have a problem in the society, somebody else will be telling them, continue, don't do this, don't do this. Now, take for instance, the person that also makes payments to government and then his approval is not yet ready and he's still building. We've had a lot of cases like that, but he has made payments. They've certified that everything is okay. They will still come because they want you to still have that approval. All the visits will more or less to stop you so that you can focus and get the approval. Ordinarily, they will not come for demolition. They will come and took the building and all that. But the demolitions that comes from Lagos State physical planning or LAPSCA would actually have to do with title contention. So if the title contention will start from buying the wrong land, due diligence, manipulation, or is not properly done. God saved me, even as a developer this year. I was going to buy a document with a CFO. I've gone to Alausa, sent my lawyers, they got the CTC. It was at the last moment, somebody in government just said, let me see that document again. And they spotted that it was fake. So for me, I've been practitioner for about 18 years. How?
You almost got
scammed. I almost got scammed. Yeah. So now talk about the people. So there's a lot of problem in this, because real estate there's a demand for it. So you easily find people with intentions that are not sincere in it, that they want to scam me, they just want to claim out this same coastal road we are talking about. Yes, when they moved the coastal road, what I would have expected the government to do is to compensate before demolition for people that they moved the road into their property. That would have managed the emotions, the people's expectation, at least give them money. If they want to go to village, they want to buy a new house, they want to get something better, they will be happy. They'll say, don't worry, do your road, you've paid me. But when you have not said to them and you demolish, then there'll be issues, especially for those that they changed the direction of going. But the coastal road, I personally have known about the coastal road since 2007. 2007, the original one. And in some places, you will see that they left it. Even some Omoniles, the community, the local people know that this is coastal road. They didn't build on it. They left it. However, you will also see some people also that will sell that coastal road. And people will buy it as plots of land and they will build.
But when you go, do a search, it
will show. Meaning that people don't do search. People don't do search. And sometimes also, I would say that the best way to actually conduct a land search is when you give it to a lawyer, let the lawyer do the search and write the report on his letterhead. I had a recent situation like that a surveyor did a survey and he flew the coordinates. So let's say instead of the coordinate of where we are sitting, use the coordinate of 100 meters away. And so the buyer ignorantly went ahead to process a governor's consent, not knowing that the place the land is, the document is different for where it should be.
Right.
And when they now took the matter to Surveyors Council, they had to mandate the surveyor to return the money to the buyer, to return all the expenses of governor's consent back. Yes, the person has made a mistake by buying the wrong land, but you as a professional, you should have discovered that this coordinate is not correct.
I'm talking about, doing your due diligence.
Yes.
At this time, what's the rate like, if you're trying to do a search at this time?
Well, so I would use a legal firm to do my own, actually.
Okay.
And then they will do the search from physical.
On the average, how much?
On the average, maybe 100,000. Ordinarily, if you are not doing up to maybe 30,000, some lawyers will do 30, some will do 50,000 for a search. I think what you even pay to Lagos government CTCs, I think it's less than 15,000 to get a certified true copy of the documents. Then you can go to Surveyor General also to conduct a search, to search the land. they will do from their GIS, and Lagos has a very robust GIS now, so which is good. However, I'm not holding brief for Lagos State to say why are they doing demolitions like this, like that. For the one in the environment, I think one of the things that I would suggest that government should do is there could be an executive order from the governor to say, some of you that you have built close to this canal, I will do a one-time order. You will contribute for government to spend money to do the concrete of that canal. So a typical example is in Mende, that the width of the canal, I think, is about 40 meters they're talking about. So if the government meets all of them and says, see, this is it, we have this option, but we are putting a face to this conversation. Contribute money, make it a concrete channel, but you will bear the cost. Because for us, it's not in our budget. We want it to be an earth channel. We don't want it to be flooded. But once you do a concrete, it becomes permanent.
Like how much would that kind of project cost?
Well, it depends on the width. It's not going to be one person. There are a lot of them on that line. Right. Yes. And they would sit down, even if it comes to, 50-50, government pay 50, these things can be discussed so that it helps the investor. Exactly. Yes. But the government will be wary of, if I go this route, they can make it a norm. That's where it comes at a one-time executive order to say, for this place, we are doing this. And if you don't agree to terms, that is all. I've also seen video of the Honorable Commissioner of Environment meeting people to say that they don't even have title, they don't have building approval. When you don't have those things at all, you don't even have a voice. But if you have a title, you have a building approval, you should be able to sit with the government should be able to sit with them and say, okay, so how do we go about this?
And to think, there's a cost of living crisis, right now, inflation. We just got inflation number for April.
Highest in 30 years.
Exactly. Rentals are 100% up.
Yes.
In less than 5 years, at this time. And, some would ask, the government should know that there's a cost of living.
There's hardship
People
out
are
there.
suffering,
yes.
At this time. And you're now turning, landlords, into tenants.
However, you see, while let's add sentiment to it, while there's emotion into it. So I have a typical case on my hand now. A land that is allocated to me by Lagos State government, I paid for it. I'm working on it, and somebody comes and starts building on it. And you didn't buy from me. I've warned you. I've told you to go to relevant authorities. Whoever has sold this land to you have scammed you. And he's not listening, and he's still piling. So a day will come, they will put remove. How?
So most of the time,
people are also, they have an issue. They have an issue. So that's why I said it's a deep society problem. The person that is selling a land that does not belong to them, that is selling a land that is on a right of way, that is selling a land inside a government scheme. Is that bad that you see Lagos government people giving possessions inside government schemes, and you see somebody that is still building fresh, where you see them demolition, and that person is building there and doesn't have a title.
Right. So let's look at developers now, the built environment. Some build and sell. Do we have such properties also being demolished?
Well, like the one in Maryland, I know it's done by a developer, but from the document I've seen online, they have building approval, they have CFO, they have clearances and all that. That's one the government should discuss and sit on the table. So the one the ladies bought now, I don't know whether she bought it from a developer, but also it's a society problem. There are people that are selling properties on that same coastal road that have been established before, not even the new one. So if you sold something on an old coastal road that is there, you're hoping that they will not do it. 50 years, they will not do it. So making all those kind of speculations will not work.
Right.
Exactly. So there are people
so looking at all of this right now, how do you see it impacting sentiments towards investment in Lagos real estate?
Massive. Everybody is afraid. So everybody will be afraid, especially when you have a title and a building approval and government is demolishing somebody that has a similar title you have. And you believe the title you have is sufficient. Then there will be fear. There will be panic. But if they see that the people that the houses are demolished are people that, yes, you built on Coastal Road, it's been there, and it's not even because they moved it. Okay, you closed the canal, you built there. People will understand. You don't have a title, you built on somebody else, and people will understand. So there has to be a lot of orientation and communication also from government to educate the people. Nobody wants to do business in real estate
now. Getting to other states.
I watched one yesterday in Asaba. They were demolishing houses. I was just laughing at, okay, we are talking about Lagos, but this is also happening in Asaba. So it's a culture, is a Nigerian thing. We should learn to do the right thing. And the guy was on video, he's building a 2-story building. They're demolishing something opposite him that they said they want to use it for a school. But when you know a land is not meant for that use, don't do it for that purpose. So irrespective of where you are in Nigeria, actually, if you buy the wrong land that has title issues, you will face similar challenges, except the person comes to the table and negotiates with you and then you clear off. Or you buy a land that is meant for an expressway and it's in the master plan, you would also lose.
So at the end of the day, you do your due diligence.
You do your due diligence, yes.
You will escape demolition.
You will escape
for sure.
For sure. For sure, but I can't say for sure alone because of what I've seen in Maryland. So in some cases also there has to be negotiation. But when people have documents, they should be able to sit. The government should give them a listing here to look at them. How do we go about? That's what I would say.
So what
but to a large extent, you are protected by law.
Right. So what are you seeing going forward at this time?
What I see going forward, the real estate in Lagos is like nobody wants to touch for now. But I can see that there's still demand anyway. The demand is there. The Lagos state government, I think they have enough opening ears. I've visited a couple of them that are in these decision tables to say, can you help us look into this? Can we come up with this method? There has to be investors' confidence to say, when you do the right thing, we will protect you. And so I think Lagos state government is going to look at it. Lagos is still the choice place to still invest. For me personally, I can, maybe because I've lived my years in Lagos, I can easily go and get documents validated, know what is meant to be. And I've followed all the master plans of Lagos. Every time it's been renewed, I make sure I keep a copy to ensure that I'm protected and my clients too are protected.
Fantastic, because it's quite mind-boggling
quite scary.
at this time, and scary to think that finally you've escaped being a tenant, and the next thing you're back there. But thank you so much. It's great having your perspective.
Thank you.
I'm Oyeleke Ajiboye, CEO of Efficacy Construction. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we're going to head straight to the markets, find out how the midweek trading session is going. That's in a moment. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Let's head straight to the markets now. We have Anita Edet with the details for the midweek trading session right here and in the global market. Great to have you, Anita.
Yes, afternoon, Ladi. And do we say thank God it's Wednesday?
I guess.
Oh, thank God it's midweek.
There's a little green, for the NGX. So I guess some investors will be like, okay, maybe, but it depends on the close, though.
Yeah, well, the color, yes, you can talk about the color, but at the same time, also look at this level. Shortly, just yesterday, I did mention that we were hanging by the thread. Of course, we've also dropped below that 98,000 points.
Right.
And then it's still hanging in the balance of 97,000 points. Well, give and take the market, we might see some pullback because right now the market is still oscillating in between bargain hunting as well as profit taking.
And it looks like this might continue because we're seen the central bank governor saying that tightening will continue, trying to tame inflation. So looks like that fixed income market will still look attractive,
especially when you look at the year-to-date moderated to about a plus 30.4%, while month-to-date the market has pulled back by about 0.8%, losing more than 132 billion at the close of Tuesday's trading session. So let's tell our investors what the market, in other parts of Africa, is moving at intraday. So you have it on your board there on the screen. South Africa's JSE, we've talked about Nigeria's stock market being in the green at intraday, but still moving in between, but before it closes at 2:30. So the JSE index 0.68% in the green. On the other side of the market, we see Egypt in the green, 0.28%, while Kenya's stock exchange closed on Tuesday down by about 0.5%. Now, we've been talking about the inflation numbers, which has just come in. But before we go to the inflation numbers, let's talk first about the fixed income market. Or let's talk first about the Naira. We see the Naira taking another bashing at both the foreign exchange market, both on the Nigeria foreign exchange market as well as the Nigeria autonomous foreign exchange market. Here first we see the Naira. Yesterday we saw it at about 1,478 Naira, 11 kobo. But as at the close of Tuesday, it was at about 1,520 naira 40 kobo against the dollar, while at the NAFEX rate is down by 0.39% to about 449 naira 80 kobo against the dollar from the previous rate of 1,550. But this was an appreciation in contrast to what you had from the NAFEM. But for the BDC rate, that's the Bureau d'Echange Operators, or what you call the parallel market. The market made it weakened further, all the way from 1,485 naira against the dollar to 1,501 naira on Tuesday. This impact is also causing the upward adjustment of the customs duty rate to climb higher to about 1,502 naira 1 kobo at for the customs rate. So, of course, we see the impact of the naira, taking its toll across the forex market as well as the Nigeria's economy. But let's get some more details about the fixed income market, especially when we talk about the Debt Management Office bond auction for the month of May. Now we have analysts here, Senator Audu, a forex and fixed income market dealer, to tell us more about this. Thank you for joining us, Senator.
Thanks for having me, Anita.
Okay, now first, where do we start from? Let's start first with the Debt Management Office, because now, of course, we saw a rather weak demand in contrast. Yes, it was high, but in contrast to the previous month, the month of April, we saw it making maybe like a 30% drop. So what can we attribute to this?
Okay, so as you rightly said, the DMO, the Debt Management Office, conducted a bond auction on Monday. The amount on offer was 450 billion. Across three maturities, the 2029s, the 2031s, and the 2033s. So across all three bonds, we saw 450 billion on offer. The subscription was high, actually, at 551 billion. But as you said, we've seen a bit of a waning in the interest in that auction. The allotment was below the amount on offer, about 381 billion. And we saw a marginal decline across the stop rate. So we saw the 29s decline to 19.29%. That's from 19.3% previous auction. We saw the 31s at 19.74%, and the longest bond on offer closed at 19.89%. Immediately following that auction, we ever saw some demand. So we've seen all three bonds trade at an average of about 5 basis points below where they closed at the auction, at the bond auction. But on the Treasury bill side, we've seen those bills trade also are slightly below or around the stop rate at the last auction. So the last NTB auction remained unchanged. The 1 year closed at 20.7%. And we've seen those bills trade at or around those levels.
Okay, so now that takes me to my second question, which is a two-pronged approach. First, we have the Naira making a pullback, well, I wouldn't call it a free fall, but a rather a weakening. And of course, we also have Nigeria's inflation report coming a little bit higher from what it was in the previous month. Now, 1 week from now, like that's on Monday and Tuesday, the MPC will be holding its meeting, a rates policy meeting. So now, what are the expectations, especially when you take a look at these two factors to be considered for Nigeria's economy?
So the NBS, the National Bureau of Statistics, released the inflation numbers not too long ago. We saw the figures for last month come out at 33.69%. This is an increase from 33.2%. This closing figure was significantly less than what many experts had projected. The projection was around 34.2% for this for last month's figures, but we saw that come in a bit lower. Some of that could be attributed to the base effect, while some of the reduction as well could be attributed to efforts by the CBN and the Monetary Policy Committee to rein inflation rates in. There's an MPC meeting on Monday and Tuesday. That's May 20th and 21st. A lot of analysts, including us as Access Bank, have been waiting for the inflation figures to, of course, guide our expectations around that meeting. So now that the numbers are out, we do expect that although the MPC might increase its tightening efforts, it may not be significant. So we do expect that the MPC may hold, or if they do increase the MPR from the current rate of 24.75, it will be a relatively marginal increase from what we've seen at the previous meetings.
Okay, so that takes me to my final question, which is just in 60 seconds. How is the market, the fixed income market and the currencies market performing at intraday?
Okay, so for the FX market, as you said, we've seen a depreciation, and the NIFM rate depreciated yesterday to 1,500 levels, 1,520 naira to be exact, while the NIFX rate as well depreciated to 1,473 naira yesterday. We've seen that the CBN has tried to intervene intermittently to try to rein in this the persistent depreciation we've seen for the past week and change. So we do expect that we will start to see some returns from those efforts. And but at the moment the rates are still depreciating marginally. But we do expect that this depreciation may not be a long-winded or may not be sustained for too long.
Okay, Senator, I think we'll leave it there, and of course keep our eyes on the market across board. So thank you so much. That was Senator Audu, fixed income and forex dealer with Access Bank. Now over to the Middle East, where we're talking about first on the Saudi Arabia. Yes, of course, there's a 2-day summit going on there. But before we go to Saudi Arabia, we're looking at the Abu Dhabi and the Dubai FM, both on the United Arab Emirates. It's mostly negative sentiment for most of the markets within that region. 0.34% decline at intraday for the Abu Dhabi as well as the Dubai FM. Now, talking about the Saudi Arabia Stock Exchange, it's in the green. The Tadawul is up 0.17%. And of course, it's the lone gainer there for that regional market. And we have the Saudi Minister of Investment saying that the UK is the second largest foreign investor in the kingdom. And of course, this is the kingdom's biggest economy there. So with approximately 16 billion in investments. And of course, there's been so much of positive moves on both sides of the kingdom, that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Kingdom. Now, talk about the Qatari Stock Exchange. It is still at intraday in the red, 0.12% for that market. Now, let's talk about the U.S. market. We see the U.S. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, as well as the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. Both the futures markets for the futures performance for those markets were in the green, and this is because investors are also looking ahead of a key inflation report. That's the consumer price inflation report, which will be due by 1:30 today. That's for the U.S. market. Now, even still talking about the U.S. market, we saw that overnight the three averages were in the green, and tracking some of the reports of yesterday of the producer price inflation coming out, which came out at about 0.4%. So now let's get details of Tuesday's closing on Wall Street from Washington correspondent Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market closed on an upward swing on Tuesday as companies like Meme again soared on Tuesday, as the U.S. stock market saw growth in the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, and the S&P 500, as the Nasdaq closes 0.3% up, the S&P 500 closes 0.5% up, and the heavy tech Nasdaq set a record since April 11, closing at 0.8%. This is after the much-anticipated announcement by President Biden setting tariffs on China. This did show that the U.S. economy might be stronger than once expected. Investors are also waiting to see what the Consumer Price Index reports will release on Wednesday. As the U.S. economy continues to struggle back forward, there are some signs that the U.S. economy could be on an uptick much more than many thought in the past.
Washington correspondent Maria Bird with details of Wall Street performance for the close of Tuesday's session. So, Ladi, that is it.
Right.
I think my expectation is for the MPC meeting, because of course inflation has been out, coming high, although it didn't meet the analysis by FDC, which was projecting 34.25%. But will the MPC hike interest rates, or will they not? Your guess is as good as mine.
Right. I guess consensus is another hike, definitely. Thank you so much, Anete, for the details.
Pleasure.
All right, now let's take it on to London now. We have Juliana joining us from our London studio. Great to have you, Juliana. So yesterday we talked about the UK-Saudi Investment Summit that kicked off in Riyadh. What are we hearing so far?
Yeah, so the UK-Saudi Investment Summit, as mentioned, kicked off yesterday. And the UK-Saudi Investment Summit is a Good afternoon, Laddie. Yes, that's absolutely right. I think Agnetto set the scene there. So the British government, led by Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Dowden, have been in Riyadh for the past 2 days, participating in what has been described as a really big moment for British business, and that is the Saudi Great Futures Summit. We know that Crown Prince Salman has been overseeing the diversification of the Saudi economy, and because the UK and Saudi are significant trading partners, and particularly in a time of post-Brexit Britain, the British government are really keen to be front and centre when it comes to maximising the opportunities that the diversification of the kingdom is going to provide, which is why the British government decided to go with a 400-strong delegation. We've got XX from HSBC as well as British Airways there. But I think in terms of Saudi Arabia, the big fish for the UK economy is going to be in services such as education and health. That is what we export to the Middle East by far the highest, and that is what Oliver Dowden wants to expand. Separately, just this morning, Oliver Dowden was speaking to the press, and what he said, the objective of participating this week in Riyadh is to try and solidify a free trade deal with the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, which of course includes 6 nations, including of course Saudi Arabia as well as the UAE and Qatar. Now that is going to be difficult because even though they are a regional bloc, of course they do have competing interests. And I think some of the economic ties that Britain have shared with the UAE in particular have come under some strain in the past few months because there have been accusations from the West about the UAE funding particular wars across the world. So there is some tension, but that is the main goal because, of course, we are in post-Brexit Britain. We're no longer enjoying some of those free trade deals that we once enjoyed when we were in the bloc with Europe. So we're having to go further afield. And I believe it was Deloitte that produced a report a couple of weeks ago suggesting that perhaps goods and services imports to the GCC could be valued at about 450 billion US dollars by 2035. And again, Britain being a service-based economy want to make sure that they can leverage upon that. So that is kind of the long-term goals for Britain participating in this week's summit with Saudi Arabia. But of course, considering trade volumes between Saudi and the UK is worth £16 billion pounds annually. Just these 2 days alone will be good for them.
Right. So I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Juliana, but I have to sign on a rejoin back to the Nasarawa Investment Summit 2024. And definitely it's all about infrastructure this time. We're going to be live on other platforms, but on this platform that you're watching, you might have to switch over to the Nasarawa Investment Summit for 2024. All right, now, so Business Incorporated continues on other platforms. Let's head back to Juliana now. So I see the FTSE 100, that's hit a fresh record high. So I'm guessing it's still green right there in the UK.
Still green, Laddie, but some of those early gains, as you said, record high digits that we were seeing much earlier in the morning has since been depleted. But let's have a look at those numbers much more closely, shall we? The FTSE All Share is up. It's up by 0.30%. The FTSE 100 is up too by 0.27%. And the FTSE 250, the domestic market, that's up by 0.59%. In the currencies market, the British pound is currently trading up against the US dollar by 0.32%, up 2 against the euro by 0.17%, but down against the Japanese yen by 0.16%, Laddie.
All right, thank you so much, Juliana, for the update. All right, let's take it on to Europe now. See, US President Joe Biden has raised tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and increased levies on other industries significantly. And join us with more now is White House and for the White House's move and how it could affect Europe is DW correspondent Chipondo Chibelu joining me from Berlin. Great to have you, Chip. So what do we know about the tariffs?
Thanks for having me. Well, Laddie, Germany has a shortage of around 573,000 skilled workers, according to the German Economic Institute. And if every single one of these job vacancies were occupied, Europe's largest economy would be able to raise its economic output by 1.1%. Now, that would add 49 billion euros to its GDP. Germany's skilled worker shortage isn't new, but
All right. Well, Chip, definitely, it's all about this industries that will be affected at this time. But what would this mean for the industries, that will be affected by this tariffs?
Well, the fear in Europe is that now even more Chinese goods in the targeted industries will be heading to Europe due to US protectionism. There are worries that we may see more Chinese electric vehicles, for instance. They already account for around 30% of the European electric vehicle market. The Biden administration's move puts pressure on Brussels to do more to protect the affected sectors in Europe. Now, those include the auto industry, chip makers, and manufacturers of batteries and solar cells. While companies that do business in China are concerned about retaliation, industry representatives say more needs to be done to protect European manufacturers. And of course, that's a move that would also protect jobs on the continent. But there's much concern here in Germany in particular. Many German businesses have benefited from China's economic boom in the last decade. And with operations in China and suppliers there as well, they may have more to lose if the trade dispute between the EU and China worsens.
All right, so much to unpack there, but what can we expect from markets today?
The European stocks are expected to trade slightly higher today. Investors, however, are cautious as they await inflation data for April. So all eyes will be on the U.S. consumer report. It is expected to decline slightly, and a surprise increase would definitely send jitters into markets. It could mean that investors may have to wait longer for the U.S. central bank to cut interest rates. Now, here in Europe, traders will also have a slew of updates to look forward to as well. Those include the Eurozone GDP, French inflation data, the European Commission's spring economic forecast, and the International Energy Agency's oil market report. Investors will also be keeping an eye on news from Russian President Putin's visit to Beijing, where he is meeting his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. The EU has been putting pressure on China over its support for Russia.
Thank you so much for the update there from Europe. All right, let's take it on to Africa now. We see Zambia's central bank have hiked its interest rate to the highest level since 2017 to arrest inflation and support the kwacha as the country battles the effects of its worst drought in 4 decades. The Monetary Policy Committee lifted the rate to 13.5% from 12.5%, matching median estimates of 4 economists in the Bloomberg survey. And South Africa's mining company, that's Simbaye Stillwater, has revealed plans for further restructuring within its gold mining operations, potentially leading to an additional 4,000 job cuts. As the largest employer in the sector, the company disclosed the approximately 3,000 permanent positions and 915 contractor roles are under threat. This marks the 3rd round of workforce reductions within a year for the group. Economists say the move will hurt communities where Simbaye operates.
The roughly 4,000 people that have recently been retrenched from Simbaye Stillwater face very grim prospects, and so do those who depend on them. So for sure, they will receive a stable income through their retrenchment packages for some time, but they're going to have to find new work at some stage. And in South Africa, that's an increasingly difficult thing to do. The national unemployment rate officially is around 32%, but if you include discouraged work seekers, people who've given up, that climbs to around 42%. And if you just look at youth unemployment, that's well over 50%. If you look at the mining sector specifically, because retrenched miners are likely to look for work there, it's worth noting that there are fewer people employed in mining today than there were in 2017. And in manufacturing, which is adjacent, there are fewer people today that are employed than back in 2008. Overall, joblessness has increased under maladministration, poor rail, road, and port facilities. And this means that everyone that loses their job is finding a tougher time to get a new one. Most concerningly, the period that people take to find new work has increased for 77%. It's well over a year. And so that's indeed a very long time to be looking for work.
All right, now let's head straight to the markets. Now talking about the crypto market. If you look at the screen, we'll see there's more green on the screen at this time, but also significant pockets of red. Ethereum trying to get back to that $3,000 level. Bitcoin, $62,816, 1.82%. Let's look at the sentiment of the market now, how investors are feeling today. Are they afraid? Well, it's still a greedy market, 64 points over 100. That's for the fear greed index, showing that there's still kind of a bullish sentiment right there in this market. But there seems to be that meme coin craze coming back in traditional markets. That's in the US. Let's bring in Rume Dominic. He's the founder of Vorum and Deputy Managing Director at Aviat Industries. Joining me right here in the studio. Great to have you, Dominic. It's another day, another trade, in these markets. How you seeing, sentiment these days? I looked at, some U.S. stocks, and those meme stocks that they normally refer to, in the U.S., they're starting to rise again. The likes of BlackBerry, and the rest. But I know the crypto market, they've had their crypto craze. And I'm wondering if what we're seeing in traditional markets are going to sit back into the crypto market, talking about the meme coin mania.
It's been a story. It's been a traditional story setting of like we had in the Bible of David and Goliath, where the traditional institution is facing a lot of war from a group of retail investors that wants to challenge the wisdom of Wall Street. And they want to challenge every single principle that is available with finance, especially around utility of a project, what should affect the price action of every cryptocurrency. And, in 2017, we saw with the meme coin craze, we saw Dogecoin having a very good spotlight in 2017. In 2021, during that bull run, we saw the likes of Shiba Inu having spotlight. And in this 2024, we've seen cryptocurrencies like Book of Meme, WFI, and then we have people and all those other cryptocurrencies that are currently taking the spotlight. So you can see that in this progression, it demands, in the words of Albert Einstein, mastery demands all of you and none of you. And as a certified blockchain architect, a certified metaverse expert, and one that is a global facilitator working with Aviat, like you have just said, it is important for us to point out the reason why a lot of US investors are so keen on the meme coin market. One of the reason is because there's a return of a lot of retail investors thinking that they will still make a lot of money like what has happened before in 2017 and 2021, like I earlier made mention of. And they want to reignite that particular craze and see that they make a lot of money. Another reason is the fact that they are all banking on a short squeeze. For this meme coin craze, there's a point at which the Bollinger Band comes together and it breaks out. And most likely it's either going to break out to the downside, but for a much more risk to reward ratio, they have calculated it that the risk to reward ratio will definitely be in their favor and it will be to the upside. And that is the reason why a lot of cryptocurrency investors in the US have been involved in the meme coin. Not to forget the social media craze.
Right, the social media, all over Twitter, yes. X, sorry. They're always talking about, the meme coins. But I've seen, some people talk about the experiences with meme coins. They say, fine, you hear a lot of people make money from meme coins. But when they try to buy a meme coin, it ends up being a rug pull. And I'm wondering, how do you navigate, meme coins? Because at the end of the day, they don't really have that much utility. But I guess the utility is it makes you money.
The utility
for meme coins.
No, the utility is a bit different from the fact that it makes you money. Utility in terms of cryptocurrency is this. What problem is that cryptocurrency solving in the market? You have a cryptocurrency like Chainlink, and Chainlink is an Oracle-based solution that solves problem for data storage. But you can find a cryptocurrency like Shiba Inu there's no, okay, let's go to Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin is satisfying payments and processing infrastructure, right? Like for the Shiba Inu, apart from the fact that you can possibly send value to someone and a lot of people just believe that it has a lot of value, there is no utility or good business use case around it. Take, for example, like the book of meme coin. I mean, a cryptocurrency called the book of meme. So there's really no strong use case or like a direction where after this phase of this cryptocurrency is going to evolve into this phase, and investors are going to use it to be able to bring out a massive project that will benefit humanity. This is the underlying definition of utility for this meme coin. And as you can see today, unlike the last time we had the fear and greed sentiment as 52 against 100, today it's at 64. And that means that there's much more excitement coming into the market. And remember my words, in the words of a wise man, sell when the market is excited and buy when it is fearful.
Exactly. But, that FOMO, fear of missing out, always knocking investors out, most of the time, especially first-time investors. But we're expecting April inflation numbers in the U.S. We already have Nigeria's inflation number for April. It's higher, as expected. But in the U.S., they are moving closer to their target of 2%, at this time. But, the Fed they're not comfortable yet. They believe they need to do more. Everyone's expecting a rate cut, at some point. But what do you see the numbers coming today? How do you see that impacting, the crypto market?
These numbers for the consumer price index comes every second Wednesday of the month. And it is important for our viewers to be able to understand the meaning of the CPI. It then means the price at which different goods are being paid out in a weighted basket. And for the consumer price index, I think it's been over about 6 to 8 months since we last saw it at about 0.3%, right? Last month it came out at 0.4%, which is a bit better than what it was the previous month, which was 0.5%. So we see that it is actually getting better. For the cryptocurrency investors, it is a two-sided thing. If the consumer price index is good, and let's say it is very high, it then means that cryptocurrency investors will want to be able to hedge their assets against inflation, because that means that as it's high, inflation rate is also going up high. So there will be more money flowing into the cryptocurrency and financial sector for people that wants to hedge against the effect of inflation in the market. However, when it is low, there is a possibility that the economy is getting a bit much more stable, and then people wouldn't want to hedge their money in assets like cryptocurrencies, and then maybe they will go into things like bonds and all of those things. So we expect and we quickly pray that the consumer price index comes to our favor so that we can see a very good short squeeze in the price of Bitcoin.
Investors look in the crypto market looking for every excuse, to pump those prices up. Well, we'll keep tracking it. Thank you so much. Great having you, roommate Dominic, founder at Vorum and deputy MD at Aviator Industries. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Saladi.
Thank you. Yes. All right, so that's how the markets are looking today. That's the show today for the midweek trading session. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back again tomorrow to bring you the Thursday trading session, and we'll see how maybe Friday goes, if it goes green for the local boss. Thank you again for watching. Remember, you can visit www.channelcv.com for more updates. I'm Ladi Williams from me and the team right here at Channels HQ. It's bye for now.